But I think it's time that we transition into talking about the heroes of communism, or one hero in particular. And this is just a bit of breaking news that I think represents, one of the biggest international news stories of this year. Quoting from Reuters here, Venezuela's Maduro receives samurai sword gift from actor Steven Seagal. That's right.
Actor is really short selling it. Yeah. Special agent, member of the mafia,
Bodhisattva,
first white member of the Yakuza and the Triad.
It's
only civilian to have ever diffused a nuclear device.
Yeah,
that's right.
Greatest actor or greatest martial artist of all time.
Proud
Best
Serbian
fighter.
citizen.
Yeah, he's This is, I really like this. Seagal has showed up in a lot of things like this. Like, he did this in Serbia, and he had like a thing where he was teaching Aikido to the Serbian military. Like, if they're ever in a bar and a guy walks towards them really squared up, they can just slap them on the back and make them fall over, like in Seagal's movies. But yeah, it's, how like G8 nations had Bono for a while. If you're the target of American sanctions, you get Steven Seagal.
Exactly. I mean, I'm looking at a quote for him talking to Vucic, the Serbian PM, and his quote is, he told him, "I can do a lot here. I want to bring the whole film community here, all of it. I want to build sort of a Hollywood film infrastructure here."
That's right, folks. A Serbian film, too.
He also promised to restore what the Serbs claim is the oldest Buddhist temple in continental Europe.
He's going to use some of the bricks from the Victim of Communism Memorial that are left over.
Right.
I like that because he's like, make it sound like he's just like, hey, I'm still plugged in the movie industry. Yes. Have any of my movies come out in theaters in the last 30 years? No. Have I, do they have to invent new streaming services to put on like a Hard Man or whatever the fuck I'm in? But like, yeah, I mean, I'm gonna get like A24 out here.
Steven Seagal has very deep connections with megaupload.nz.
Yeah.
Just reading the article, it says here, Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro received a samurai sword as a gift from actor Steven Seagal, who was visiting the South American country as a representative of Russia, state television images showed on Tuesday evening. Maduro, wearing a white face mask and a traditional Venezuelan black long-sleeve shirt, positioned the sword over his shoulder as Seagal nodded and pointed in affirmation. The Venezuelan head of state maneuvers after drawing the sword, a state television narrator said, calling the weapon a symbol of leadership. "I had a very friendly, affectionate encounter with Steven Seagal," Maduro said on Wednesday in a broadcast on television in which he referred to the U.S. actor as my brother. "We talked about mutual friends, like President of Russia Vladimir Putin, because of his interests in protecting forests." So, I mean, this is it. I mean, first of all, I don't know if you've seen Seagal lately, but he is larger than he's ever been before.
He is expanding in every direction, it seems. Like his head's getting bigger, his torso's getting bigger. It's like he's armor plating himself.
He looks like he's carved out of a single block of wood right now. Like,
someone said he looked like a baseball mascot of Steven Seagal, like he's wearing the suit and is about to do like a dizzy bat, baseball run in between innings or something like that. But
yeah, that's accurate.
A samurai sword, what a great gift to be given. And I mean, Felix, I know you've been trying to get an authentic samurai sword. So, I mean, maybe ask Nicolas Maduro if you could see his.
Well, I feel like, so Putin sends Seagal to you if you're like his, that's like a good deal for me. Like, I would be fine with accepting U.S. sanctions. That's fine. It doesn't really like affect my life. I'd have to change banks or something, but like, whatever. We'll figure it out. But if that means that Putin is like, Steven Seagal is going to come to your house and like give you a sword, it's like, yeah, worth it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, the question remains about this sword that was gifted to Maduro, though. Can it be upgraded? Does it scale with strength?
Do you need Titanite? Yeah, that's why the U.S. has been after Venezuela, because they have the world's greatest Titanite mines. And the U.S. military, all our guns are stuck at +4.
You gotta get some shards. Going on here, it says Maduro added that Seagal was in Canamania on Wednesday, a national park in the country's southern Bolivar state, accompanied by Venezuela's Minister of Indigenous Peoples. We are going to shoot a movie together that will be called Nico Ma Dura de Tumbar, a wordplay on his name, meaning Nico Ma is hard to knock down, Maduro continued. It is the new Steven Seagal film. We are going to fight the demons, the bad guys. I am Nico.
I
would love that to see that movie.
That would be a movie where like Seagal plays Maduro would be fucking awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And he won't like. It'll be nothing really like about politics. Like it'll be like the plot of A Good Man or something. Like the plot of the movie is like the plot of all these movies, which is like there's a bunch of guys who need to die while Seagal is sitting down so he can have sex with a woman who's like 28 at the end while wearing a leather jacket.
Maduro started off as a bus driver, so they could just have him be driving the bus the whole movie, and then he never has to stand up.
Perfect.
He just runs over bad guys.
He's talking to Juan Guaido. Your family hates you. And it's true.
It is true.
Yeah, nobody likes him. Nobody likes Juan.
He's trying to climb over that fence, and like Seagal just sort of like rolls down a hill in an office chair. And he's like, "You take one more motherfucking step, I'm gonna snatch every motherfucking birthday away from you."
That sounds like an awesome movie.
Well, so I mean, like obviously, this is some very important Seagal news that's breaking today, and we have been long interested in the life and career of actor Steven Seagal. So I figured today would be a perfect time to share with you a mega profile of Steven Seagal that is kind of like the Rosetta Stone for his career. This is an article in the LA Times that came out in 1988, right before Above the Law premiered in theaters, and this was like. There's a new guy on the scene. Move over, Clint. Move over, Stallone. There's a new sheriff in town, and his name is Steven Seagal, pronounced Seagal. And I got to credit Andrew from Bunta Vista podcast for finding this article. He tweeted about it a while ago, and I clicked the old bookmark folder because I thought this would come in handy at some time. And of course, it now is. So I would like to share with you guys now. This is the LA Times from 1988. Steven Seagal Gets a Shot at Stardom by Patrick Goldstein. It begins, tall and lean with the rough good looks of a daredevil jet pilot, Steven Seagal is more than just a 6'4" martial arts wizard who can flip a man 5 feet in the air with a flick of the wrist. His fans proclaim that he's a star waiting to be born. And let's talk fans. Seagal has an enthusiastic film studio booster, Warner Brothers president Terry Semel, a mega potent Hollywood agent pal, Michael Ovitz, the fearsome leader of Creative Arts Agency, and a high-profile public relations firm, Rogers & Cowan, to go along with a model starlet wife, Kelly, the woman in red, LeBrock. Who can forget her TV commercial lament, "Don't hate me because I'm beautiful." So this is when Steven Seagal had like the world at his fingertips.
How? How did he get famous? It must be some sort of organ harvesting scheme or something.
It's so weird. It's so fucking weird because like you look at the people, that's around the time where people were like, okay, action stars have to be like kind of jacked and like athletic. Like if they're not huge like Arnold, they have to be like JCVD. Like
yeah, they have to have
athletic.
Like some sort of athletic kinetic thing. He always just stood there.
Yeah, and
even when he wasn't fat.
Like think of the action stars at the time. It's like freaks, like superhumans, like Arnold and Dolph Lundgren, or Jean-Claude Van Damme, who is like actually an amazing kickboxer and could do really cool stunts just on his own. And then they're like, we have the most stationary man in the world. Who's
Imagine
just like
Steven Seagal trying to do the splits the way that Van Damme did.
We have a balding Jewish 35-year-old who never moves.
He's the immovable object.
Yeah, but at least he's a great actor, though. So that makes up for it.
Did you really want to come and fix my porch and get to know me, or was that just a lie too?
I loved fixing your porch, and I'm very interested in you.
Screen presence and charisma, yeah.
Like one of the least charismatic action film stars, like ever, like ever in American history.
It says here, Seagal 37 has a host of Hollywood power broker fans predicting he'll join the ranks of such action megastars: Arnold Schwarzenegger, age 40, Sylvester Stallone, age 41, Chuck Norris, age 47, Clint Eastwood, age 57, and Charles Bronson, age 65. This was in 1988. Charles Bronson was still number
was doing Death Wish like 9 with a feeding tube in.
He goes on here, says, but it is Seagal who had never been in front of a camera before last spring, ready to make the leap to stardom. The box office receipts will be the final barometer, as in the bottom line. But if you want to see Hollywood's star-making machinery humming in high gear, listen to the story behind Seagal's sudden emergence as a bankable film star. Like, what do you think, Matt? Do you think this will tell the real story here, or is this being massaged by Michael Ovitz at CIA?
This is a limited hangout about Seagal.
This is very much
just like his stomach.
This is like, you know how Seagal, like his early marketing was like, yeah, I was a CIA assassin. It's like, well, now I think like maybe, because how else do you explain this?
There had to have been some sort of deep state involvement.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, I mean, the article is going to get into that, and like I think Dan, you hit the nail on the head. This is the limited hangout about like this. They're giving you just a tantalizing view of something that's true, but there's more going on here with Seagal. So it says here, a decade ago, he was living in Japan, where he taught Aikido, and by his account, was recruited by the CIA to help carry out undercover missions.
That's how it goes. The CIA goes to like karate classes, and he's like, who's the best adult here?
Who has the highest
best
belt?
grown up?
You know who else lived in Japan and got recruited by the CIA is Lee Harvey Oswald.
You're absolutely right.
And he wasn't even that good at karate, probably.
Steven Seagal was actually taught Aikido by Gary Powers. A year ago, he had returned to the States and was quietly running his West Hollywood-based Aikido Tenshin Dojo, a martial arts school where he still teaches 3 nights a week. Today, he is awaiting the April 8th release of Above the Law, a $7.5 million thriller from Warner's in which he plays an embattled Chicago detective whose investigation of political corruption lands him in the midst of a CIA-connected Central American drug connection. I mean, first of all,
that movie's awesome.
$7.5 million to make like a big like Hollywood like summer action movie is astonishing. But again, like that, the plot summary, like people forget, like Above the Law was like super woke. Like it was like all about like the Golden Triangle, like CIA drug fucking connection.
Yeah, just like the first Lethal Weapon also was that.
Yeah, no,
like
right.
there was a lot of shit in the 80s because the Iran-Contra did happen and some people noticed. They're like, yeah, hey, our military and intelligence are just dealing drugs. That's weird.
It's weird if you go back like over 30 years ago. Action movies, like, yeah, there are a lot of really conservative ones, but some have they have a more realistic understanding of the CIA than like, Black Panther.
Yeah.
Or Zero Dark 30.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Zero Dark 30 is like more unrealistic than any Steven Seagal movie.
Agree.
And like of this era, and like Seagal came in like this is 1988. This is like the tail end of the 80s. So like most of the really like powerful like right wing homoerotic 80s action movies had begun to go on the wane, and Seagal really did kind of like usher in a new era of like sort of action movies that A, weren't homoerotic, but B, also were kind of left wing. Like you'll forget, like if you'll remember, like his last big bite at the Hollywood Apple is when he made On Deadly Ground, and apparently he had to cash in like all of those big supporters that this article lists. Like by then he had alienated pretty much everyone in Hollywood by doing things like being an abusive monster to literally everyone around him, getting choked out and shitting himself when a stuntman chose to fight him on the set of Out for Justice.
Got punked by JCVD too.
Like he cashed in like all of his chips in Hollywood just so that he could have the last 10 minutes of On Deadly Ground be him delivering a sermon about the need to take care of the environment and fight big oil.
That probably did set the environmental movement back about 30 years. Like there was probably like tons of people who were probably getting into it, and then he's like, when you see a tree, that's just a stiff person. You're like, this sucks. Let's pollute.
Yeah, more proof that he's a CIA operative.
He's doing black propaganda.
When you see a motherfucking river, you can't be putting no oil in that. You ain't get more rivers. And they're like, let's make the hole in the ozone bigger.
So it goes here. Tomorrow, watch out, Arnie, Sly, Chuck, Clinton, Charles. He goes, as soon as I saw Steven, I knew that given the right vehicle, he could become a major star, said Tony Ludwig, president of Imagine Films. The closest person I've ever seen that carries himself with the same kind of stature is Mikhail Baryshnikov. Because, Mikhail Baryshnikov, Steven is smooth, powerful, and has this don't mess with me presence. It's almost as if he's a manufactured human being. This is speaking in code here. This is code. What are they talking about? A manufactured human being.
Did this what this guy is saying is only acceptable if he die a rare instant coke overdose 10 seconds after this interview. This is that's the most coked up thing to meet Steven Seagal and you're like, he's graceful, he's beautiful, he's cool, he's the coolest fucking guy I've ever met, he's real as fuck.
I also like that
stories are bullshit.
In addition to being compared to Mikhail Baryshnikov, he also described Steven Seagal. The first adjective he used to describe him is smooth. He's perfectly smooth.
Even smoother now, one would argue. There are no edges on his body anymore.
When I saw how smooth Steven was, I knew he was going to be even bigger than Chuck Norris, who's famously not smooth.
Yeah, Chuck Norris is a very rigid, bony man.
Oh, he's very hairy, too.
Yeah.
It says here, of course, manufactured cuts both ways. With all these heavy hitters behind him, we're entitled to wonder, is Seagal a bona fide discovery, or will be come off as just another homogenized Hollywood hunk? The 80s.
Another Hollywood pretty boy like Steven Seagal.
I mean, is this just a product of how on cocaine everyone was in the 80s, where they looked at Steven Seagal and they were like, here comes another A-list hunk. Ladies, calm down.
These are the same minds that dumped millions of dollars into Howard the Duck.
This is cocaine, and it's if you see Steven Seagal and you're like, he's the most handsome man in the world and he's cool, and it's you couldn't go anywhere. If you went to the North Shore of Chicago and you just saw a dumpy but tall Jewish kid on his way to his bar mitzvah, you'd be like, do you want to be an action movie star? It just has the same vibe as Seagal. Coke must have been better back then too, right?
It was.
Yeah.
The shit was, it was fish scale.
It's the only thing explaining this shit.
All right, well, here's a perfect example. It goes, quote here, Steven has the most amazing presence you've ever seen, says Ludwig, who met Seagal when Ludwig was a creative artist agent. When he walks into a room, you can see every head, male and female, turn around as if they're all wondering who this guy is. It's sheer magnetism.
Yeah. Who is that guy who was sexually harassing me yesterday? When he walks into a room, you could see him dart to the nearest chair and not leave it for hours.
When he walks into the room, it's sheer magnetism. He makes everyone take their clothes off in front of him, male and female. And they do it. Because he's so powerful.
It's because the material that Seagal is made up of is so dense. It's like a neutron star that's gravity.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah, he's a different non-terrestrial matter. His fake hair, it probably if you touch it, it has the same coating and oil as a mink fur.
It's covered in rich lanolin.
Yeah. Yeah. It's if you shook his hand, you'd probably get lost in it. You'd get sucked in. It's like an abyss.
So he goes, continues. Okay, so he's magnetic, but can he act? Or is it enough to project a steely-eyed stare and a rugged set of pecs? In person, Seagal is shy, self-effacing, eager to make a good impression. Unaccustomed to such scrutiny, he had mixed emotions about spending several days with a reporter, alternating between being curious about the process and wary of the intimacy. Ludwig wasn't exaggerating. When Seagal sweeps through a restaurant, quickly crossing the room with his long, supple strides. Remember, think of every scene in a Seagal movie where he runs, and think of those as long, supple strides. Like he runs like a gorilla would. Like the way his arms move, it's very odd.
This man has limited flexibility. Like
Yeah, he runs like he's like carrying an invisible souffle. He like can't alter its trajectory too much.
So he goes with his huge hands, finely sculpted cheekbones, and quick cat-like movements. Seagal
no.
radiates.
What the fuck, man? This is like street harassment. Like, I never thought I would think this, but it's like, this is a reversal of fortune. Like, this article is sexually harassing Steven Seagal.
Seagal radiates plenty of movie marquee sex appeal, and his martial arts expertise seems to offer plenty of action film credibility. But what really grabs your attention is his voice. And I gotta say, like Sam, I mean that is mostly what I noticed about Steven Seagal. Is wait, I'm gonna tell you one motherfucking thing about the way I talk, which is I'm always whispering.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take you to the bank, Senator Trent. To the blood bank.
And he goes, whether he is recounting his exploits overseas or wondering about his box office reception, he speaks with a hushed, conspiratorial purr, as if he were worried that a tiny man hidden under the floorboards might be taping the conversation. I don't
Literally,
think
he actually thinks, because he knows that he has intel that the Soviets have created tiny people who can overhear conversations.
That is such a cocaine, like, whatever that is, like literary device. It's like there's so many things you could use there. Be like, oh, there's a listening device or someone's eavesdropping. It's like, no, a 6-inch man is living in the floor. Like, what? Like, was it just like 90% of adults were on cocaine all the time back then?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's probably a
always
better time.
He goes here, it's always hard to
Absolutely
predict
was.
how film critics will respond to a new actor, but judging from an early rough-cut screening of Above the Law, Seagal appears to have the makings of a believable action hero. As a Chicago undercover cop, at odds with federal authorities, he seems at home in front of the camera. Whether he's manhandling drug kingpins during a car chase, coolly interrogating suspects, or preaching against the excesses of CIA hitmen. While Seagal demonstrates plenty of agile macho moves, he often chops his way through half a dozen thugs at a time. He also projects an air of quiet intelligence. He looks like he looks like he could really pursue a complicated investigation, a quality missing with Norris, Schwarzenegger, or Bronson. Okay.
Mr. Egg really looks like he's talking when they put the peanut butter in his mouth.
Okay, sure. You could take your shots at Norris or Schwarzenegger being like, oh, like they don't seem like they're smart enough to be a cop. But Bronson, come on. Bronson has the cool cat-like grace and intelligence and a smooth, beautiful body.
Bronson was a very smooth, like almost marbled man.
He really was.
Yeah.
Didn't Seagal actually become a police officer for a while?
Yeah, he was some parish in Louisiana. He was a sheriff's deputy.
And then he worked with Sheriff Joe in Arizona too. They ran over a dog kennel or something.
Yeah, that's
right.
how you know he was a real cop. He killed a dog. It wasn't just for
that's what you got to do. You're not a cop until you have at least one collar hooked to your belt.
Yeah, well, Dan, he did have a reality show on A&E that was called Steven Seagal Lawman.
Oh,
and he would just like drive around in this like huge black SUV wearing like neon tinted see-through like goggles, and he would drive around, and you know, just most of the shows just him in the car, just total bullshit. He's like, I've been around these streets a long motherfucking time. I know everything that goes on here. And then like there was this really weird thing in the show where he would be like, it wasn't him saying it. They're like, Steven Seagal goes into an extra sensatory state where he can sense potential crimes being committed.
Like pre-crime. He's minority reporting. Like he's doing pre-crime.
Well, it is Minority Report because every time they like bring it up and like they change the tint of the lens to show.
Yeah, it's like it's
doing
Seagal
that.
Vision.
Yeah, when he's doing Seagal's vision, it always ends with him just like pulling up alongside like a black pedestrian and being like, what's going on here, brother? Like, and the guy's like he's not doing anything, but it's it's implied like, oh, he stopped a crime. Fucked.
I remember from Long Bam, like the only arrests he actually made were of just like random black guys in Louisiana who had attachments for like missing a court date or parking fines or something.
Yeah.
Steven Seagal, truant officer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he'd be handcuffing them, and they'd be like, "Damn, is that Steven Seagal?"
Yeah. And it was great because it was like he's arrested. Like he never like got anyone into serious crime. It was all like, yeah, bullshit, like parking tickets they forgot to pay, like things you should never actually be arrested for. But like the thing, like his narration and shit was so self-serious. It was like, if there ain't no law, shit gonna break down. It's like you need laws in society.
So going on here, it says, one night last summer, a local attorney was drinking with several crew members at a Rush Street bar. Are you sure this movie will ever be released? The lawyer scoffed. Who's ever heard of this Seagal guy? The crew members were indignant. Hey, just wait and see, one said. Seagal is no lightweight. One of his star students is the most powerful agent in Hollywood. No one's going to mess with this film. Ovitz declined to be interviewed for the article. He rarely speaks to the press. CAA has a company-wide gag rule about giving interviews. However, Steven Seagal denied having instructed Ovitz in Aikido. Coming from my lips, I don't teach him the martial arts on a formal basis, he said. Michael does love martial arts, and we talk about it all the time. But that's the extent of it, despite what you may have heard. So he didn't give Michael Ovitz of CAA formal martial arts training, but he did discuss it with him on a spiritual level.
I love to get informal martial arts training from a total psychopath. It's
Just like, yeah, I don't have a instructor. I have a martial arts consultant.
Yeah, these are all the woman killing moves. I would give anything to hear their martial arts conversations. That would actually be the best podcast ever. Totally coked up Michael Ovitz, Steven Seagal, talking about how like you can generate a sword with like ki.
It says Seagal isn't shy about voicing his view of his relationship with Ovitz. Crouched on an exercise mat at his West Hollywood dojo, saying goodnight to his last class of the day, he seemed especially thoughtful as he explained his kinship with the Hollywood dealmaker. Michael and I are very close. We love each other, Seagal said. I'm like a guru to him. Steven Seagal, guru to the Hollywood dealmakers.
I like how with that thing, like it shows how much more insane Seagal got with time, because it's like in the 80s, it's like somewhat believable. It's like, oh yeah, I'm a guru to Michael Ovitz. It's like, yeah, whatever. You teach Aikido to like Hollywood losers. But then by 2008, he was like, yeah, I'm actually Anderson Silva's instructor. I taught him and Lyoto Machida, like the UFC middle and light heavyweight champions. Like I taught them so much shit.
And then in 2017, he lathes it into reality by teaching the Serbian version of Oman how to do like kill strikes with their hands.
Yeah.
Just going on here, it says, if you have a hit action movie, you can have it a hit everywhere, Semmel said. Action films translate particularly well overseas. Cobra, for example, did twice the business internationally that it did here. I mean, once again, like foreign audiences, like it's just you have to go. They're the only ones who appreciate true art. Like the fact that Cobra did twice as well overseas and in America just shows that American film-going audiences don't know how to appreciate like an art film like Cobra.
Stone classic by George P. Cosmatos.
Absolutely. So going on here, it says, Semmel said that he first met Seagal socially. I knew he was an aspiring actor, that he was physical, very powerful, and that he was a good-looking guy. And as we got interested in him, we went on the theory that his appeal wouldn't necessarily be limited to martial arts, that he had the persona and the physique to be a potential star.
Agree.
I don't think it was just a matter of anyone replacing Clint. He's gone far beyond being just an action star, Semmel said. But when you look at action stars, it's a very short list. Stallone, Norris, Schwarzenegger, maybe a couple of others. The key question is, who's that rare young guy coming up who can handle those physical roles? We think Steven could be it. Semmel searched for the right words. Steven seems to exude this enormous sense of focus and intensity. He has this serious look that, well, when you look at him, you see danger.
Yeah. Yeah, no, okay.
True,
yeah.
correct.
Yeah.
Danger is something that Seagal says he has seen plenty of. Born in Detroit and reared in California, he left home at 16, eventually moving to Japan in 1968, where he devoted himself full-time to the study of martial arts. By the end of his 15-year stint there, he had become a respected figure in the field. His accomplishments have been widely chronicled in martial arts magazines, which note that he became the only Westerner to operate his own dojo in Japan. While teaching there, Seagal discovered that his classes were populated with an unusual assortment of students. Students who, as he put it, worked for a particular agency, the Central Intelligence Agency. In Asia, he goes, in Asia, you'd be amazed how many people are connected with the agency. Seagal explained one night on the film set in Chicago where he was fighting off a migraine headache. A lot of the American military has been over there since the occupation, and they've become very connected to the intelligence community. These guys are my students. They saw my abilities, both with martial arts and with the language. My CIA godfather told me he'd never heard any Americans speak Japanese so well. I would say I was the prime candidate to be recruited.
So no Japanese
just say
guy.
gibberish, and because in Japan everyone's very polite, they just like would nod at him, and you just assumed that he was a fluent speaker.
I like how like this in that he's like, yeah, I'm so good at Japanese that like, and he's a liar. But instead of saying like a Japanese guy was like, you speak Japanese better than anyone I've ever heard who's from America. It's just like another white guy from America telling him that. It's like, yeah. I also like, what was the recent Seagal movie we watched like last year?
General Commander,
when he's like, when they're getting kicked out of the country and the woman goes, I'm not going to leave. Asia's my home. So he's been using that for a while. So we know he wrote that movie because he also thinks Asia is a country.
The other thing I really like about like him filling in his backstory here, he's like, when I was running my motherfucking Aikido dojo, I was recruited by a particular agency. I'm not going to name them. And then in the next paragraph, he's like, my CIA godfather said I speak Japanese better than any motherfucker on the planet.
So good.
So he goes here.
He's awesome.
He says, I was a prime candidate to be recruited. Did Seagal actually work for the CIA? He offered a qualified admission or perhaps a qualified denial. You can say that I've lived in Asia for a long time, and in Japan I became close to several CIA agents, he said, choosing his words carefully. And you could say that I became an advisor to several CIA agents in the field, and through my friends in the CIA, met many powerful people and did special works and special favors.
You could say that my handler sent me to what is now known as Myanmar while I was sent through the jungle to assassinate Kun Sa, the opium warlord, and head of Shan State. You could say that.
He's doing such a bad job of being like, I can't tell you.
He's doing the Sam Ace Rothstein thing. Like, you could say that day to day, I run the casino.
Yeah. He's awesome. He
goes, Seagal declined to offer many details, refusing to cite specific missions or locales. However, when asked about the authenticity of a scene in Above the Law that shows an intelligence operative injecting a rival with a deadly chemical truth serum, Seagal said, that's not made up. That's something that really happened. It gets better. It gets better. However, Seagal spoke freely about his involvement in security operations for the Shah of Iran when he was deposed in 1979. We helped set up safe houses in London and Paris so the Shah and his family could flee the country. We were also aiding members of the Shah's family who were under the threat of death from Ayatollah Khomeini's killing judge. It was incredibly barbaric. They were randomly executing people. It was like something out of the Hitler era.
Yo, I'm in my Hitler era.
It was like something out of the Hitler area. And he goes, one of the Shah's nephews wouldn't leave. So we had to hit him over the head and try to take him out unconscious. But he insisted on going free. So we finally had to let him go. We warned him what would happen, but he left. Later that same day, he got shot in the back of the head. he's saying I was trying to knock out the Shah's nephew, but he didn't want to be rendered unconscious, and then they shot him in the back of the head.
Yeah, so he like took like a brick, hit him in the back of the head, and was like carrying him by his collar. It was like a cub, it was like a bear carrying a cub, and then he like woke up while being dragged and was like, "No, I don't want to travel this way." And he's like, "I'm gonna motherfucking warn you."
I'm gonna warn you one motherfucking time. It's like the Hitler era out there.
I like to imagine that's all true, and that Seagal was actually part of like Ari Ben Menashe's plot to sell surface-to-air missiles to Iran.
That would, I mean, like the people, actual people involved in Iran-Contra were not much different than him, but like. That would be, if he did that, actually, it would be cool because it's like, imagine like one day you're in charge of the country, like you have all this petroleum wealth, you're top of the world. And then the next day it's like you have to leave. And not only that, but like you're being escorted out by like this dumbass.
I can understand why you might go, you know what? I'm going to take my chances.
Yeah, it's like you're not the king anymore. And also like you have to be on like a 19-hour plane ride while this guy is like, and that was the first time that I met Miles Davis. And he said he had never seen anyone do Aikido or play jazz quite like me. And that's why they called me Achichiko no More, which means the thunderous white man in their traditional language. Just that for 19 hours.
It's like Argo, like you have to flee the country, and the guy they send has like the world's most ridiculous ponytail. It's just like is wet all the time. It can't run. It's just
Constantly has to stop to like breathe.
Yeah, it's telling you the most like bullshit stories you've ever heard.
Looks like he's wearing 2 bulletproof vests, but it's not somehow.
Mr. Hugh Hefner is a friend of mine, and he was a target of assassinations by the Soviets, who are most similar to a Hitler type of event. And he would have me test the vaginas of playmates to make sure they wasn't poisoned. Because I learned the art of dealing with poisons when I was in the land of Myanmar.
Seagal said that he had done more recent security work, including work for South African Bishop Desmond Tutu and the late Egyptian President Anwar Sadat.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Great job there with Sadat.
Yeah, nice work, dude.
Fucking magazine of AK rounds to the face.
Well,
what were you doing?
They were really smart. They put a chair near him. He was magnetically drawn to it.
So it says here, he's done security work for Bishop Desmond Tutu and Anwar Sadat, but he says, but only for jobs for people who are, quote, special to him. My wife... My wife and I...
The Shah, Desmond Tutu, and Sadat. Those are the 3 best rulers in the world. Those are his favorites.
And he goes, my wife and I just had a baby girl, so I'm trying to stay semi-retired and away from a lot of these things. Only when you get some distance from these stories do you begin to wonder just what kind of act this would-be actor has. Is he on the level, or is he just blowing smoke, playing the part of a scruffy character lifted from a Ross Thomas thriller? I'd be very happy if nobody believes me, Seagal said, without a trace of irritation. I don't think you can find anyone in the agency who can prove they work for the agency. That's the whole point. I did some... It gets better. He goes, I did some work for the White House recently, for a committee where everybody had top secret security clearance. And when they checked up on me, they couldn't find any data on me. They asked the agency, who refused to confirm or deny who works for them. That's why I see no reason to go public with any details I might or might not know, but I could tell you stories. He's saying, I have top level security clearance. Nobody can confirm or deny that I exist, but I do have some stories. Seagal's voice trailed off for a moment as he squeezed his temples, trying to soothe his headache. It's not like a movie. If they wanted to, they could get people to come over and get me tonight.
Who is they in this sentence?
The agency, the agency's enemies. I don't know. He goes, Seagal was right about checking his story. If you call the CIA, a public information officer dutifully explains, if asked the question every day, we don't discuss employee records. No, we can't confirm or deny anyone's involvement with the agency. Asked about Seagal, a Washington insider with ties to the intelligence community said that it would be unlikely that someone who worked for or with the CIA would publicly acknowledge such activity. Maybe so, but don't tell that to Gary Goldman, a close friend who offers substantiation for Seagal's claims. The 46-year-old Army veteran is perhaps best known as one of the key participants in an unsuccessful 1982 Laotian POW rescue mission led by retired Green Beret Lieutenant Colonel James Bo Gritz.
I love
So,
Bo
wow,
Gritz.
another complete bullshit artist confirms the narrative that Steven Seagal did indeed help rescue American POWs from Laos in 1982.
Bo Gritz is awesome. Like, he was, if you ever listen to like sort of conservative radio in the 90s, he would have ads that were like, you need to buy gold. Like, Clinton's going to take all the money.
The most annoying thing about that guy is that his name is spelled Grits, and he insists on pronouncing it Greitz.
Oh,
Like, fuck
off.
you, dude. Fuck
Right?
off. Yeah. You're Bo Grits. It's like you're like the proprietor of a chain of like fast casual barbecue restaurants.
Well, yeah, Greitz sounds like a Prussian warrior and not an American liar, which is what he is.
Goldman has been described in newspaper accounts as a soldier of fortune trained in anti-terrorist techniques. However, he prefers to dub himself an unconventional warfare and intelligence specialist.
I love
A
it.
short man with a mustache and a muscular build who is an avid marathoner, Goldman keeps a low profile. When Seagal first gave the reporter Goldman's phone number, he referred to Goldman by the code name of Carol. After speaking with the reporter several times over the phone, Goldman provided his real name and agreed to meet for an interview at a breakfast spot in Brentwood.
I love doing all this like tradecraft in like Silver Lake and shit.
Yeah, totally.
like he's doing like dead drops and shit. like in fucking LA. What a fucking loser.
Is this the beginning of like the cult of the shadow operator here? Like
Kind of, yeah.
The way of the Shadow Wolf.
yeah. Forward by Sheriff Joe.
When something is going on in the world that Uncle Sam would like to influence but doesn't want to get directly involved in, the problem gets handled in a covert fashion, said Goldman, who drives an ivory Alfa Romeo and said he served several tours of duty in Vietnam from 1965 to 1969.
Low profile.
An agency's case officer will find someone who's not officially connected with an agency, which is euphemistically known as a contract agent who can perform that job. I think it would be fair to say that at some point in time, Uncle Sam recruited Stephen because he thought he had particular talents that would prove useful on certain assignments. And this shadowy Uncle Sam figure, is he the CIA? It could be the CIA or several other intelligence organizations that might be conducting clandestine operations. They could be the Office of Naval Intelligence or the Intelligence Support Activity, which is a unit of Army intelligence. Goldman tapped his hand on a coffee cup. I know this much. I've been out with Stephen on several missions, and he knows how to get things done. He has a certain high level of skill that you don't just pick up reading fantasy magazines. I don't think anyone would question his capabilities. Goldman said he and Seagal first bumped into each other in Asia, then later home in the States, where they, as he put it, had reason to share information and worked on several jobs together. What kind of jobs? Again, Goldman was extremely circumspect. One involved the recovery of some items that were someplace they shouldn't have been.
He lost his keys.
Yeah. This is all stuff like, he assisted me in a kinetic materials operation. Yeah, he helped me move.
Yeah.
we were
pizza.
we were hired by a certain three-letter agency to ascertain the whereabouts of a certain calorie-based delivery that was intercepted on some point in between Silver Lake and Brentwood.
We neutralized it. We neutralized the package.
These guys are such dickheads. I love them. They're like, these guys definitely hung out, and they were probably just both doing weird shit, pretending to be in the CIA, and like not even running a game on each other. Just like they're convinced of it. They're just like, going to Brentwood Market and like leaving a newspaper on a bench So one knows to meet the other, and they're not connected to anything. They're just dickheads.
It's just a fun. It's a fun way to hang out with your friends through dead drops.
We should do that.
I remember being a kid and like just convincing myself that I knew how to do exorcisms, and then just by proxy, my friend also was like, "I think I have these powers too," and then we did an exorcism on the elementary school tool utility shed. I think it's the same. I think it's the same thing. I think what Felix is saying. Yeah.
No, yeah. These are they're both 38-year-old men, but they're basically 8-year-olds.
Yeah.
They're just so full of shit. It's awesome.
Dan, my version of that story was I remember I was in grade school and for the first time ever, America Online and the internet was a thing. And then in library class, the librarian, showed us how to showed us logging in, and you hear all the hiss and the static and they're like, this is what the internet is.
Yeah.
And this was also coincidentally at the exact same time the movie Hackers had come out.
Oh shit.
Yeah. We have a zero bug attacking all login and overlay files.
Run antivirus. Give me a systems display.
A rabbit is in the administration system.
Send a flu shot.
Rabbit, flu shot, someone talk to me.
And I had just seen it in theater, and I remember sitting in the library with my friend, and they were like, what's this? And I'm like, it's the internet. And then I was like, I could show you how to do some real stuff with this. I can't speak on it now. I got to wait till third period recess. But I'll let you know.
We'll show you the dark web, the dark side.
Some pretty real shit. Yeah, I can do some hacking with you. So he goes, another time, we were hired to do a quiet investigation, which could confirm the location of someone who was, an unpleasant sort of person who our employers wanted to locate because he had caused problems for people. He's talking about a guy who didn't pick up his dog shit in Los Feliz or something like that.
Yeah. I represent a 3-letter agency, and it's the Homeowners Association.
Okay, so what did they do with him after they located him? Who knows, Goldman said with a shrug. Maybe just wanted to talk to him. Maybe take him to Jesus. Whatever.
This is awesome. Telling a reporter, he might have killed somebody. Murder.
Can I ask again what publication this is in? I'm just curious.
This is the LA Times.
Okay.
Oh, the 80s.
The major newspaper, one of the biggest newspapers in the country, the newspaper of Los Angeles. And they were like, is this new and up-and-coming action star? Did he do murders for people?
This is the best. It's this is if there was an article in the New York Times that's Johnny's dad is actually the ultimate warrior, and he did a move on one of his bullies at school and killed him.
The average moviegoer may see Above the Law as just more Hollywood action with duplicitous secret agents, sleazoid drug dealers, and an avenging hero. As director Andy Davis put it on film set one afternoon, what we're really doing here with Steven is making a documentary.
Yep.
Again, how much coke do you have to be on to say that, even as a joke or even as just marketing bullshit for a movie? What we're really doing here with Steven Seagal's Above the Law is a documentary.
Agreed.
This is a cocaine-based consensus reality that is formed around these people.
I wish I lived back then. This was
it was awesome.
God.
You can just make anything reality.
Yeah.
Because we're making fun of LOL trying to turn this this charisma vacuum with the drawn on hair into a celebrity, and then they did it.
No, they actually did.
He was a big hit. He was a big star.
And it's the types of lies you could do. Now the lies you do are it's the last unverifiable thing where it's oh my God, I was on the subway and this guy was reading Infinite Jest, and I did a clapback and everyone cheered, or the conservative version of that, just a human interaction that no one can really verify where you won. But before the internet, you could just be yeah, I've killed 37 people. I taught karate to everyone in the military. I was involved in Watergate. And it's no one could... someone could call places and figure it out, but it's you're seeing now, this is a reporter and they're calling places and it's inconclusive whether he's killed 2 people in LA recently or not.
He goes here. Seagal's character, a former CIA operations officer in Vietnam, discovers that the agency is linked to domestic political corruption, a Central American drug connection, even an impossible assassination attempt of a prominent U.S. politician. But Seagal insists that the fiction is only a slight exaggeration of the truth. Some of his charges, particularly those about CIA-inspired disinformation and attempted coups, are no more grandiose than the admissions of the late CIA director William Casey made in Veil, Bob Woodward's controversial tale of CIA chicanery, which is a totally fraudulent book to begin with. And much of the film storyline could be adapted from this week's headlines about Panamanian strongman General Manuel Noriega's alleged ties to U.S.-backed Contra rebels and international drug runners. Man, in 1988, yesterday's news. This is great. However, you need a more conspiratorial mindset to buy some of Seagal's other beliefs. He suspects that he suspects that AIDS may have originated with a botched CIA chemical warfare experiment, a charge the U.S. government has claimed surfaced through Soviet disinformation campaigns. And yes, he's also a conspiracy theorist when it comes to John F. Kennedy's assassination. When a visitor seemed skeptical, Seagal snapped, if you can't figure out what went on behind the Kennedy assassination, then you're not only not a rocket scientist, but you must have an IQ of about 16.
This is
correct.
I love this because it's like, well, we don't know if he's like killed 2 people recently or is like a CIA sniper and is the most respected man in Japan. Like, that's all. I mean, probably he's right about that. But like, get a look. Wait till you hear what he actually believes. That the CIA was involved in the Kennedy assassination.
I mean, this is the limited hangout thing. I mean, I think that's why they built up his career, because they're like, let's make this like one of the most ridiculous liars ever into like the world's biggest action star. Yep. And then he'll start spouting all this bullshit about like the covert ops he ran with a certain 3-letter agency. But he's also going to say things like the CIA was involved in the Kennedy assassination and Manuel Noriega was connected to Contras who were running drugs for the United States government. He goes here, Seagal often sounds like a zealot eager to exorcise the evil heathens. The heathens, in this instance, being his former comrades in skullduggery. The whole motivation behind me doing this film was me trying to make up for all the things I've seen and done, he said. I'm tired of seeing us try to destabilize governments, prop up dictators, and get involved with drug smugglers and crooks. I mean, you know, once again, he could be telling the truth, folks. I have very personal reasons, too, even if they are sort of embarrassing, even humiliating. There was a time when I thought I was doing a good thing with good guys for a good cause. Looking back, I think I really wanted to be a warrior. Seagal fell silent.
Mission accomplished.
Seagal fell silent. It's as if you go through a time in your life when you had to prove something to yourself. And the proof came from doing something brave or dangerous. For a while, I had this uncontrollable urge, this addiction to danger. Now I look back and I think, gee, what an idiot. I was risking my life just for the sensation of it. So there you go.
Limited Seagal hangout.
Powerful.
I mean, the article goes on for like another 3,000 words, but like, you know, I think we covered like the main good parts of it, which is his connections to covert ops and like the limited hangout that is his whole career. And I think like, you know, to mix in the truth with all of these like insane, obvious lies is really interesting to me because as Matt pointed out in the beginning of it, his career makes no fucking sense.
It's like, insane. How did the CIA planting him in Hollywood like fucking Manson at Haight-Ashbury is one of the more plausible explanations for how he became a fucking action star.
Because like, you know, it might not just be cocaine that like Michael Ovitz and like some of the most powerful people in Hollywood just all of a sudden said of this man, he's one of the most magnetic and charismatic individuals I've ever come across. Something else going on here.
Yeah. I hope there's a church committee, but just for Steven Seagal's career.
Yes.
Yes,
like who was responsible for
Get
this?
these motherfuckers under oath.
Yeah.
And you know, if you subpoenaed him, I'm sure he would tell the truth under oath.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, like, yeah, if him being a movie star was a CIA project, like, yeah, all you'd have to do is ask him. He would be so happy to talk about that.
Totally forthcoming.
No, they'd be like, like Elizabeth Warren. I'm mad, Mr. Seagal. The American people are mad. They want to know, were you in the CIA? And then he goes, I can neither confirm nor deny any motherfucking supposition made by this committee. And then the next follow-up question will be like, no, seriously, were you in the CIA? And then he just go, yes, I was.
Yeah, it would be like his back and forth with Liz Warren would be like at the start of General Commander, where he's like, you do not believe to begin to believe the things I motherfucking did for this country that people like you don't like to think about, that they couldn't imagine themselves doing. Like, he uses like the most prepositions ever in a sentence. It's like the most confusing shit ever said. Elizabeth Warren would really need Resperdal after that.
So there we go. That's just another chamber unlocked in the strange life and career of Steven Seagal.